Cruise. Joining me today are the Chief Sports Writer of The People, Dave Kidd, Mirror reporter Darren Lewis and 3PM columnist Steve Anglesey. The big talking points this week are obviously the Champions League quarter-finals. We'll come on to Manchester United and Wayne Rooney in a little while, but we'll start with Wednesday night's game at the Emirates. For an hour, it looked as though Barcelona were playing a training match, but Arsenal's great comeback to force a 2-2 draw has kept the tie alive ahead of next week's second leg in Spain. Steve, what did you make of it, and of Barcelona's performance in particular?
Well, I mean, as Guardiola said after the Messi's hat-trick the other week, you just have to add in your own superlatives. Barcelona are absolutely terrific. They're an amazing team. I don't think anyone can is going to touch them for the Champions League this season. If anything, they look even more dominant. Ibrahimovic is obviously very erratic, but it looks like he's in sensational vein of form at the moment with the back heel the other night. And they just look untouchable. And it was, I think, as Graham Taylor said after the game, it was probably the most bizarre 2-2 you've ever seen, because really it could have been 7.
Yeah, Dave, they did look like they were on another planet, didn't they? Certainly for the first hour, 70 minutes or so.
They certainly did, yeah. I mean, I tend to agree with Steve that it's difficult to see anyone else winning the Champions League this season. I just think Inter might have a chance. The way that Chelsea went about them last year is often forgotten about, that Chelsea went and got a really good 0-0 in the Nou Camp and defensively, ground them down, and then dominated that second leg despite all the controversies and everything that happened afterwards, which is all that gets remembered from it. I think if you do a really good defensive job on them, which Mourinho might just inspire from Inter, that's the one team I could see stopping them. I don't see Arsenal going there. I think it'll be a terrific game again, but I really think Barcelona will outgun them. Yeah,
I mean, Darren, Arsenal have given themselves a lifeline with those 2 goals, and Theo Walcott came on, changed the game. Good news for England.
Good news for England, and I'm pleased for Theo Walcott. I just want to come back to the point that Steve was making about and Dave, because I'm not brilliant as they were, and they were. I agree with Martin Lipton. He said on the MirrorFootball website, the finest performance he's ever seen by a single team, and I've got to agree with that. They were absolutely outstanding, but they can be got at. And what was quite striking about Barcelona's performance was that, as well as their sublime skills, they had an incredibly high work rate, and I don't think Arsenal matched that. And I think if a team does match that, as Dave's suggesting, then they might actually be able to beat Barcelona. Because I saw the one team I remember, being fairly young myself, the '82 Brazil side, Falcao, Adair, Socrates, they were absolutely formidable. Yeah, and yet Italy were well organised, beat them in I think it was quarterfinals of the World Cup back then. So, I mean, I just think a good, well organised side can actually beat Barcelona. But as for Walcott, great for him last night. It just shows we judge players far too young in this country, because I think he will come good, and I think he will be on the plane for the World Cup.
Well, there is hope for us, as we said, and obviously they will miss Fabregas for the second. I mean, he was booked and suspended, but now we suspected broken leg. But Barcelona will be without both their first choice central defenders. Piqué and Puyol are both going to be suspended. The suggestion now in the office this morning, Walcott playing through the middle next Tuesday night. Steve, what do you think?
I think it's generally accepted that playing through the middle is going to be the future. It's going to be where Theo Walcott ends up playing, and he's most effective there. Piqué is a massive loss for them. I think he's a great player, and
incredible to think that he couldn't get into Man United.
It is exactly. I was just about to say there's two gobsmacking things. One is that Darren Lewis is apparently a teenager, and the second is that such an astute judge as Alex Ferguson couldn't keep him there. But I presume that he did want to go. Barcelona, they are. They've not given away a lot of goals in the Spanish league, in the Primera Liga or La Liga, but they are vulnerable at the back. The game with the Messi hat-trick game, they shipped a couple in that. They could have, before they sort of romped away with it the weekend before, they were certainly under pressure there as well, and they do creak against teams that they should knock off.
Well, the way they
So
play
there is
does
some-
allow teams space, and the two fullbacks go bombing on, don't they?
Yeah.
They're like two right. Well, obviously not two right wingers, one right winger, one left winger.
So there is, some hope for them, but whether they can, whether a team without Fabregas, who's so crucial to everything.
Well, the one thing that struck me watching the game last night, Dave, was that for an hour, 70 minutes, Fabregas must have been thinking, "Oh, I'm playing for the wrong team here. How good would it be to be playing for the team in yellow?" Is there a danger that game last night would have convinced Fabregas that maybe his future lies back in Spain?
I think he probably already knew that. I think most people already knew how good they could be. They certainly were excellent last night. But he's got his roots there. The way Barcelona talk about Fabregas, the way various sources at the club, or even out, even named sources in the boardroom talk about it. It's inevitable that one day it's only a matter of time before Fabregas returns. I remember asking Wenger this question a few weeks or a month ago, and he was very prickly about it, as if to say, "Well, yeah, maybe you're right," because it was the way that Real Madrid always talked about Ronaldo. It's inevitable. It's only a matter of time. It might be next season, it might be the season after, but this is where he belongs, and that's, I think, I do believe that Fabregas will be there in 2 or 3 years' time.
It's quite a terrifying prospect if he does go there, isn't
Yeah.
it? Because obviously he's at the juniors. His best mate is PK, isn't it?
Sure.
I believe. Messi is, Messi's clearly the same age. They used to knock around together, and Messi used to beat him at Pro Evo, didn't he? Pro Evo soccer. It's a scary proposition if they manage to add somebody. The only thing is the Iniesta thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Where would he play? 'Cause some people say play on the left, but that's not his true position, is it? It's in the middle dictating the play. So if he plays on the left, suddenly he's another one of those players who goes to a foreign countries, goes back home, but he's out of position. Is he going to be able to make a similar impact? He might struggle.
That's Arsenal's best hope in the short term, is that's the way Barca see it. Maybe he's not the actual player we need at the moment, despite however good he is. Maybe it might last a couple of years.
Maybe it's one for a year or two's time when Iniesta reaches 32, 33 maybe. I mean, Darren, you mentioned Martin Lipson's piece on MirrorFootball today, and he's also talked about the possibility of Pep Guardiola succeeding Arsene Wenger at the Emirates when the Frenchman does decide to step down. Clearly, Guardiola can't go to Real Madrid because of his Barca roots. Italian football is not going to suit his philosophy. Is that a marriage you can see coming off in the future?
Definitely. I mean, you could see the way Barcelona play. That's what Arsenal already aspire to. So it would be a natural progression. Obviously, Pep Guardiola, much younger, carried all before him at Barcelona. He's got the tools, obviously, to do it with. But also, because of the conveyor belt of talent coming through at Arsenal, they've got a similar sort of conveyor belt. They could well do the same at the Emirates. So yeah, I could see that happening, definitely.
I mean, it was something of a chastening week for the Premier League clubs in Europe. Arsenal got something of a chasing before their late comeback against Barcelona. And obviously, United went down in Munich. Perhaps not the result we would have expected there, Dave, maybe.
No, I think that Rooney's injuries obviously overshadowed everything as it would do, given the World Cup's proximity. But for Ferguson's double substitution was a very poor one. It looked poor at the time, and they were 1-0 up and hanging on and playing poorly. You wouldn't have thought you'd withdraw a defensive midfield player in Carrick and bring on Berbatov, a striker who's not best known for his work rate. And I think that's been overshadowed by everything about Rooney. But really, I thought Ferguson had a bit of a tactical shocker, unusually for him, and that really seemed to change the game. Seemed to be what sparked the eventual result.
Well, they were hassled out of the game, Darren, weren't they? I mean, their midfield was largely overrun by the Germans, wasn't it?
But again, we talked about Arsenal before and their work rate. Well, it was the same for United. I think probably because they believed in their own publicity a bit, they went in there with not the right attitude, because that wasn't the kind of workmanlike performance that we come to expect from Manchester United. And had they been up to their best, they would have won that comfortably. Now, okay, they're going back home, but they've got to play. Well, Barcelona will be playing on their counter-attack, because obviously Manchester United need to come and score. But when you've got players like Ribery who can deliver a peach of a cross from the left, you've got Ivica Olic, who's one of the hardest working strikers in football. I don't think the second leg is a foregone conclusion, Old Trafford or not.
They've got a decent away record in Europe as well this season. Obviously, I know that it's there's not the kind of the knockout element until this round, but they've done, they have done well away from home. They have scored goals away from home. They score a lot of goals away from home in the Bundesliga. And you can definitely see them scoring at Old Trafford. I think you can definitely see them getting one.
And the interesting thing is, they're not reliant on any one man. I mean, Van Bommel can score goals from midfield. Obviously, we know what Ribery can do from dead balls, and Olic, as we're saying, has got a good record, goals record.
Robin's expected to be back.
Robin is expected to. I mean, how fearsome a front six is that? Because Man United have been so good, obviously carried a lot by Rooney, but they've been so good. We kind of think. We get carried away with this idea that English football is head and shoulders above everybody else. But, Barcelona have an outstanding team and they've got an outstanding record home and away in the Champions League. And I think they're going to be very, very tough opponents next week.
I think Fulham will be the only English team in Europe this time next week.
That's a bold
Thursday.
It is a bold statement.
That is a bold statement. We'll wait
but did you ever think you'd make that statement? As a Fulham fan.
Dave mentioned the Rooney injury a little earlier, and obviously it's dominated the headlines this week. I mean, it's the doomsday scenario for every England fan, Steve. Everyone in the country must have had a collective, sort of holding of their breath when they saw him limping off. If he does, I mean, we're assuming he's going to be out for somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks, probably 4. Nice little break for the World Cup. But if he does suffer a recurrence of an injury either before or during the World Cup, I mean, is that it for England?
Well, definitely. I think, England have got absolutely no chance without him. I thought it was a very persuasive piece that I read this morning, which was kind of talking about the folly of us, Manchester United and England, putting all their eggs in one basket, so to speak. And the moment that you saw him pull up, I mean, the first thing he thought was that it was the metatarsal again, just from the way that he looked and the amount of pain that he appeared to be in. So we've got to be grateful for small mercies. But he is the catalyst for everything, isn't he? Everything good about England and Manchester United flows through Wayne Rooney. The way his energy, the way that he moves. Totally apart from the fact that he's a fantastic finisher and brilliant instinctive striker, he allows everybody else to play, doesn't he? In both of those teams, and it is a massive loss for United now.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you.
And look at these 2 games. This is their season essentially. It could not be any worse.
Their season could come down to the next 6 or 7 days.
Because obviously, as a Manchester City fan, I'm distraught.
Of course. I mean, he's clearly going to miss several weeks. He's obviously going to miss the big game against Chelsea on Saturday lunchtime. So, I mean, Dave, is it now advantage to the Stamford Bridge men in the title race?
I think it'll be really tight on Saturday. They could be missing Drogba as well, although apparently their record without Drogba was particularly good, Chelsea, because Anelka seems to come into his own when he plays in that central role.
24 goals in 6 games.
Without
24
Drogba.
goals. Oh, sorry, I thought you meant Anelka. I thought not only you're a teenage whiz kid, you're a maths whiz kid as well.
But I think Chelsea might just have the advantage in the title race. I think Rooney is as important to United as he is to England, and I think it's a massive blow for them.
I mean, Darren, you've nailed your colours to the mast on this show before with Arsenal. I mean, they slipped up at Birmingham at the weekend, but let's assume Dave's right. It will be a tight game at Old Trafford at the weekend. Could Arsenal yet bring themselves back into it if they can beat Wolves on Saturday afternoon?
Well, the good thing for Arsenal is that they're running. They're not playing against... so they've got Spurs and Manchester City, but City is at home. Spurs will be tough, I'll give you that. But I think other than those two, you would expect on paper for them to beat all the rest of their rivals with or without Fabregas. Arshavin, great player, but I remember people used to criticise Wenger for buying too many players who can play in the hole. Now those players will actually, he'll benefit from that policy because he's got Radzicki who can play there, he's got Nasri who can play there as well. And obviously Campbell can come in for Gallas at the back. So you'd say of the 3 teams, they probably are best suited, could argue, to cope with it. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Chelsea are going to beat Man U without Rooney, because Man U's have got a great home record, and I think defensively they'll be very hard to break down. And I think Berbatov might well relish, now that he's the main man, being able to have the chance to stick the goals away himself. So I think, as Dave says, I think it'll be tight, but I think Man United might win on Saturday.
Steve, you want a quick word on what you think might happen on the weekend? Do you think it'll be a tight game or?
Well, it will be very tight because, as usual, you know, whenever there's a big 4 game, the destroyers will come out. You know, Park, who's terrific, very underrated. Darren Fletcher, brilliant in big games, will come out and attempt to shut them down. But without that outlet, you know, and as we said, Berbatov is a fantastic player, but he is not going to run his nuts off.
No.
I think he's a lot better at holding the ball up than he's given credit for.
Yeah.
But that energy is missing. It's too big a game for Diouf or Macheda, who's coming back from the injury anyway. So he's going to have to be a lone striker, isn't it? 5-man midfield.
Do you think that it's probably? Do you think from United's point of view or Chelsea's point of view, it's probably the worst time to play United because they didn't play that well on Wednesday, and Sir Alex would have given them a real kick up the whatsits.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can't see them shipping in 2 goals like they shipped in. There were poor goals. One was unfortunate. The second one was. I guess they were both unfortunate, really, weren't they?
The second one was poor.
But there was a lot of standing off going on, wasn't there, on both occasions, and watching the play go by. It's very unusual to see Manchester United not in the ascendancy towards the end of a match. I can't remember seeing them overrun in the last 10-15 minutes. You know, that doesn't usually happen.
Normally, it's all about their belief, isn't it?
They kept giving the ball away, didn't they? That was a big problem.
I thought they were a bit overconfident going into it. I thought Ferguson was talking about playing against Laurent Blanc in the semi-final. It didn't seem very characteristic to me. I thought it just seemed everything seemed a little bit overconfident, unusually so. You know.
That's what I was saying before about the fact that they seem to believe a bit in their own publicity.
Went 1-0 up early and just thought they get the result.
You know, I mean, maybe we do underrate. You know, there's 2 French teams, 1 German team in the, you know, left in the tournament in the last 8, and maybe because we don't see those leagues every week. You know, we only see them on the European nights. We don't really, you know, we tend to underrate them. As you said, Bayern Munich front 6, amazing.
Well, Dave's already said he thinks Fulham will be the only English side left in Europe come sort of next Friday morning. Darren, let's not worry about Liverpool and Fulham in the Europa League now, but Manchester United and Arsenal, either of them through, neither of them through?
I think Man United will go through, but I think it'll be very, very tight. I don't think they'll win easily. I think Arsenal will lose next week at Barcelona.
Steve?
Yeah, I agree with that, yeah. United through, Arsenal at home, end of the season, once again. Didn't buy a goalkeeper, didn't buy a striker, not going to win anything, once again.
Well, there you go. All will be revealed in the next 7 days. So join us next week when we'll be chewing over the fat of next week's Champions League quarterfinal, second legs.